Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to start with the panel discussion now. The process we'll be following is I'll start with a couple of questions to the panel just to get the ball rolling. We will then go to the Twitter feed sponsored by Silverstone CIS, and then I'll open it up to the floor, and I'll have the roving mic, which we can take any of your questions, if that's all right. Great. So as mentioned, sorry, cloud. I'm trying to do it in the cloud as well. Rory Castles has joined us from the IQ group as well. He didn't do a presentation, but we'll be talking a bit to him as well. I think I'm going to start with Brett. He's done most of the talking, so we'll get him to continue. Brett, what has the impact been of the change in privacy policies at Google, and how does it impact your cloud services?
I can't remember what the terms were when I took this up now. Well, it's a hot topic at the moment within Google, but it actually is, I think it's a lesson that it needs to apply to everyone who's getting into the cloud space. If I just kind of share with you what we're trying to achieve by understanding the services that we're offering to over 1.2 billion subscribers across the planet with multiple jurisdictions, and they're using over 64 different products. So there's a hell of a lot of challenges of where the data lies and how you manage that data. And as any technology provider or business, you start off hot off the starting blocks by trying to develop products as quickly as you can, and you end up with multiple profiles of a particular person. So one of the key things we've been focusing on is bring it down to one login. And then from that point, you can then start understanding what the data is being used for, how it's being used, and apply policies, just one policy, to that person and a set of agreements. So that's a process that we're going through, and this is the first time anyone's trying to do this. So we're receiving a lot of publicity. People are very interested as to why we're doing it. And what's vitally important when you're doing anything around policy is to be very clear. What are you going to do with my data? Well, in our case, we are going to use the data to help advertisers target better. Be very open and clear. Make it very clear on how they can opt out of services. So provide them the tools to be able to say, I don't want to be part of this. And then the final kind of element from a user point of view, once you understand all of these, it's an open society, an open platform. So you have the opportunity to choose whether or not you want to use these free services, or would you rather be using paid-for services? And it's up to the user at the end.
So I think a key message is choice. The choice is up to the user, and that's key. Great.
Maybe if I can just add. If I can just add to that, I mentioned earlier the China Mobile project that we're currently busy with. So when you go from country to country, you also have to think about how those countries' laws and privacy laws actually have an impact on the type of service that you want to deliver. So, for example, in China Mobile situation, we had to come up with total new security policies. Number one, to align to what the Chinese government will allow us to do, but then number two, then to provide the right service to our customers, what they ask for, because our number one obligation is to the customers, and then to do it within the country laws. So it depends on where you also play.
Correct.
Great, thanks. So moving a bit narrow now, Rory, why specifically do you need cloud governance? Wouldn't corporate governance or maybe IT governance suffice?
Well, corporate governance is a very broad term. Now, with the innovation of the cloud, you've got a new product, and now corporate governance has evolved throughout the time as things come up. I mean, with banks, you've got Basel III from Basel I. Now you've got King III, which is now focused on data governance. So I think, as well, now you're looking after a company's life's blood, their business. Whether it's just their software, or if you're going to go the infrastructure route, you're looking after their life's blood. Now, not only does the cloud provider need to have incredibly strict and overarching governance frameworks. But the customer also has to have their governance framework in place to understand the flow. Where are they falling short, or where's their provider falling short? And as well with the cloud provider, you hear a lot of the benefits, the advantages, But another big thing is also good governance gives peace of mind. And that's a big point. I think that's why a lot of guys aren't coming through onto cloud is there's not a lot of trust into the government's framework these days. I mean, if you look at BlackBerry last year, their system shut down and the communication to the customer base was absent. Look at the Velvet Sky at the moment. People left all around the country. It's those things that sort of leave people sort of almost untrusting to not only just fly now with a certain company, it's now you're asking them to give your business operations and let them handle or keep it under their umbrella. So I think that's where cloud governance has become incredibly important.
So I also guess it's enabling you to ask the right questions, as Tammy said, and to gain knowledge.
Absolutely.
To get through this light here. All right. So Gordon, what are typically the challenges that your customers are posing to you, or the challenges or the objections that your customers are posing to you in a cloud security context, and how do you address them, and how are you fulfilling them at Symantec?
That's quite a big question there. Firstly, there's not a lot of difference in terms of base security principles, whether it's in-house, whether you're running an in-house security operation or where you're looking at security in the cloud. And three key pillars there really around confidentiality, integrity and availability. And most things regarding security are structured around there, and typically you can address concerns whether in a normal environment, in-house owned or in the cloud, through a framework of that nature. To be more specific, it really depends on the service in the cloud. So if customers are looking at cloud security, which is really, or mail security, which is really sort of antivirus, anti-spam, content management, content filtering, base level services, it's very sort of cost driven, it's very SLA driven. They want to know, if I do get infected, if I am the subject of a phishing attack or a virus does strike, what is the SLA? Is there a money-back guarantee? And those are the type of services that through Symantec.cloud we do offer. So 100% SLA for known and unknown viruses. Key issue there, we spoke about just now 20 million viruses a year. Symantec in the cloud and technology have implemented something called reputation-based security. So we don't write signatures anymore as an organization. So reputation-based, if for example, Windows.exe, we see Windows.exe on 300 million machines across the world, not 350. We know it's got this date and timestamp on this version, so we know the reputation of this file is good. If we see Werner.exe, and we see it on one machine out of 350 million, we know it's pretty bad. It doesn't have a good reputation. So reputation-based security is, is key to the cloud and key to technology, specifically in security moving forward. And it's, very much around, trust. Trust was mentioned here. Do you have the trust? Do you have the brand associated to give that trust? So, it's a tough question, but CIA, those three ratings are typically where we discuss security concerns with most of the clients, whether cloud or in-house.
Okay, great. So you need to be specific, I think, is you can't just talk security in general, but you have to address specific areas from a business point of view, as well as then looking in security. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello. Okay. So yes, it is. So the other example we spoke about archiving. Probably the two biggest services consumed in the cloud in South Africa. At least at a service provider level, is hosted archiving and in mail security. Archiving is completely different. Archiving is about legislation. It's about data. actually it's about information as opposed to data. So data with a little bit of intelligence is information. And it's around where's my information, how's it getting from A to B, where's it being stored, who else can see it, who else has got access to it. And there's a whole governance framework and control framework around the physical security of the environment of the data center, SAS 70, SAS 70 Type 1, SAS 70 Type 2, ISO 27001, all the way through to the level of 256 encryption with the data in flight and the data at rest, a single encryption key. So, all of these things are being addressed. It is a relatively detailed discussion, though, but, typically clients are more than satisfied with the answer.
Okay, great. I think what I picked up there also is accreditation is extremely important. Okay, great. So, to Vanna. Vanna, what value does partnering with a cloud enablement provider give a customer? Why can't we just virtualize, put on some automation and run our own cloud?
I think there's two, was it? Gooi me some noise here. I think there's two parts to it. The one is when you talk about telco service providers in the market. So all the telcos are starting to dabble and play into providing solutions to their own customers. From our experience, to go and build a cloud as a service provider yourself takes about 24 months to have it market ready. Okay. So what we help these guys with is we actually take our cloud and white label it, and they can go live within 2 to 3 months. So that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is, and it comes back to the governance discussion because it's an important discussion. We've seen some of the big banks in South Africa that probably has some of the most optimized and virtualized environments of any corporation you see. But because of the governance they built in and the policies and procedures that they built into to provision new virtual servers, it still takes them 2 to 3 weeks to have a virtual server available to do something with it. Whether it's test and development, whether it's stress testing, whatever they want to do, it takes that period of time. Now, just think about, you've got a user ID through the internet on a cloud with this cloud service provider that's ready. They've got the data center here. You go on and you log in and you've got your virtual server provisioned within 5 minutes. Okay, so the ease of access and the ease of getting access to the provisioning of a virtual server, that's the first thing.